Oh, friends, welcome to my presentation on sports analytics. Today we have in offer pressure index. It's a way in which we can quantify the pressure experienced by cricket teams batting second in a limited over cricket match. And so let us look how pressure index can be utilized to measure this. Now, if we look at a limited over cricket match, we have a team which bats first and sets a target to be achieved by a team batting second on the second innings of the match. Let the team that bats first be called as team A, and the team who bats second is called as team B. Now, team B has to score the runs in the limited number of overs in without losing all their batting resources, which are measured in terms of number of wickets. And in order to do that, they have to do two things during the run chase. They have to take care that they are scoring runs in the rate which is required for them to win the match, and they also need to preserve their wickets. And so if we call these two things should happen together, if we call the first one as X and the second one as Y, these two things, when we want them to happen simultaneously, are to be multiplied, and this is what gives us the basis of a pressure index. And so we look at the first thing, that is how the team is approaching so far as their run rate is concerned. Now look at this factor CRRR. This is the current required run rate, and this is the initial required run rate. At the beginning of the second innings of the match, the current required run rate and initial required run rate is same, and so the value of CI is equal to 1. Now after a few overs, if the current required run rate is more than the initial required run rate, then the very value of CI goes more than 1. And if the value of the current required run rate is less than the initial required run rate, the value of CI is less than 1, which indicates that team is able to achieve a better run rate than what is required for them. And so the pressure for the team batting second will definitely be less. So let us call it X. And so far as wicket preservation is concerned, you see we define this as W, as W by 10, where W is the number of wickets lost. So at the beginning of the second innings, no wicket is lost. So this factor becomes, SW becomes equal to 0. We define e to the power SW as the impact of a wicket loss, because wicket loss creates cumulative impact. And so at the beginning of the match, this value e to the power SW is equal to 1. And then we have another way of looking at the way in which the team is able to preserve their wickets, and that is by looking in the Duckworth-Lewis table, where Duckworth-Lewis has given a value of RU, which is called as the resource utilized, and that is measured in terms of percentage. So the factor RU by 100 gives us an idea about how much resource is utilized at a given instant of the second innings of the match. And so at the beginning, the value of RU remains to be 0, and so e to the power RU by 100 is 1. So Y1 and Y2 both are 1, and the value of X is also 1 at the beginning of the match. So ultimately the pressure index remains to be 1 when the second inning starts, and as the match progresses, the value after every ball, the value of pressure index keeps on increasing. If it is going more than 1, it means pressure experienced by the team batting second is increasing. If it goes less than 1, it indicates that the pressure experienced by the team batting second is tending to decrease given the starting situation of the match. And so ultimately we come to this as the formula of pressure index. As you can see, there are two factors in the formula. This particular factor is looking into the way in which the team is able to handle the required run rate, and this is actually taking care of how the team batting second is able to preserve their batting resources. Now let us see how we compute this part, that is Y1, and how we compute Y2, because X is quite straightforward in computation. Now we initially defined SW as this number of wickets lost by 10, but look at this situation. This is Indian captain Virat Kohli, And if we look at his score, his career average is 52.86 in T20 cricket with a strike rate of 137.84. And this is the tail-ender batsman of the Indian innings, Jasprit Bumrah, who is a well-known death bowler. But if you look at his batting average is only 4 in T20 cricket, and batting strike rate is 41. So if we go by this formula, we are actually giving equal importance to all the batsmen, whether he is Virat Kohli or he is Jasprit Bumrah, which is not done. So accordingly, we change the formula a bit and we come here where WY is the weight or importance of the batsman whose wicket has been lost. And so this is computed by RI divided by sum of RI, where RI is the rating, ICC rating of that particular batsman, and sum of RI is the rating of the entire team. So if we take this small example, the thing becomes clear. So this is on 1st of March 2020, and this is the weightage of Indian team. This is a Indian team and of 11 players who are generally these days playing. And so this is their ICC rating. This is the sum. And when we divide the individual values by the sum, we get the individual weights. When the entire thing is multiplied by 11, total weight is equal to 11, and these are the weights of individual batsmen. You can see that KL Rahul is having the highest weight, followed by Virat Kohli follows him. So, and then if you look at the Duckworth-Lewis table, which is developed by Duckworth-Lewis and now looked after by Stern, so it is called as DLS table, he defines the resource utilization. This is an abridged version of the table. And let us take an example. Suppose at the end of 1.2 overs, a team has scored 10 runs at the loss of 2 wickets. So the amount of resource that has been already utilized is a function of wickets lost and overs bowled. So overs consumed is 1.2 and wickets lost is 2. And if you look at this table, both the things meet at 11.84. So given this situation, the team has already consumed 11.84% of the resources. And this is how the value of RU is computed, and we come to this formula. But we find small issues with this formula. You see, this formula has two factors, this factor and the other one is this factor. And if we look at a match in which the team batting second is falling short of the target to be achieved in by quite a significant margin, then we find that abruptly this value, that is the values of CI, keeps on increasing at the end of the match, and not so much with this part of resource that has been lost due to loss of wickets, but CI is defining very abruptly. There is a paper by Iyengar and Sudarshan, and in that paper they tell that large variation in one of the participating indicators in an index would unduly dominate the contribution of the rest of the indicators and distort the index. So we found that the pressure index get distorted when the team batting seconds falls much short of the target score. Accordingly, we required the change and we brought the small change, and that change is in terms of the value of alpha, as you can see here. And this alpha is taken in such a way that the variation of the first indicator and the variation of the second indicator is approximately equal, and that actually balances the index. And this formula we ultimately accept for calculating the pressure of the team batting second. These things appeared in a paper which was published in International Journal of Sports Science and Coaching, a scientific journal for sports science, and it was published in 2016 with me as one of the author and Professor H Lemmer from South Africa as the co-author of this paper. So if you want to know details about pressure index, you can read this paper. Now let us see how the pressure index behaves in a real match situation, and for this we bring before you a match which was a final match of the 2016 T20 World Cup played at Eden Gardens. The team West Indies won the toss and put England to bat, and England were 155 for 9 in 20 overs, giving a target of 156 to West Indies. And let us see that a match situation, how the pressure index behaves. So West Indies is chasing 156 runs in 120 balls. And as you know, the pressure index starts at 1. So from the first balls itself, the pressure index keeps on increasing. And soon Charles gets out. And in the same over, Gale too gets out. And the over was bowled by Joe Root, who was not a regular bowler of the England side. And soon after that, Simmons gets out. And Simmons was the semi-finalist man of the match. And so there are 3 wickets in quick succession. West Indies were 11 for 3 in 2.3 overs, and then comes Samuels and Bravo for a big partnership of about 75 runs. And by the time Bravo gets out, it was 86 for 4 in 14 overs. Samuels just scored his 50, and then came the big hitter Russell. Unfortunately, after just a single hit, he also gets out. And then came Darren Sammy. Sammy could not last long. And now it is on Samuels and Brathwaite to take the match to the end. And as they kept on betting, the pressure kept on increasing. And as we can see, we'll reach the 19th over, ended with a very heavy value of pressure index. And it is even more than 5. A challenging situation of requiring 19 runs from the last over, and it was Brathwaite who was facing. Bowler was Stokes, but then sixes started raining, not 1, not 2, but 4 sixes back to back, and West Indies won the 2016 T20 World Cup. And this is how the pressure curve behaved. The values of the pressure index is computed after every ball, and they are plotted in the graph, giving a depiction of how the pressure behaved, which event indicated increase in the pressure, where the pressure decreased a bit, and how it behaved. So this is pressure index in action. Now, having defined the pressure index, we need to find out some applications of the pressure index which can really be useful for cricket analysts and the people working in sports analytics. And here it is. Pressure index can be utilized to find out the turning point or turning points of a cricket match. It measures batting performance, bowling performance, and performance of a batting partnership. Now, these are not just figures, but these actually how the player performed given the match situation. So other performance measures are actually numerically computed based on the number of runs scored, number of wickets taken, etc. But never they take into consideration the match situation under which the runs were scored, under which the wickets were taken. But pressure index does exactly that. So it is quite different and more useful than the other performance measures that are being used. There are some other derivatives of the pressure index as well. It can be utilized to predict the match outcome. It can be utilized to find the most dominant team or most resilient team at different pressure situation. That is a team which has more ability than other teams to win match in simple easy situations, win matches in not so easy situations, and win matches in difficult situations. It can also be utilized to compare 2 similar types of run chases in order to understand which run chase actually generated more excitement, where the pressure was even more than the others. So these are several applications of pressure index. If you want to know more and in details about the pressure index, you are free to mail me at my email ID. Thank you for watching Pressure Index.